1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go, go, go. Today I would like to talk about how we define art, its essential nature, and the way it is currently used in our society today. How would you explain art to a child? Thinking about it in this way, it's easy to see how difficult it is to define such a perceptual and conceptual act. What you, your family, your neighbor, and anyone else think about what art is are all correct because it is an individual experience that you make and define yourself. Throughout this time, I would like to introduce my personal beliefs on the essence of art and its deeper implications in our lives. I would like to start off about what art is and the way in which we perceive it, followed by its function for us as individuals, or the reason we are drawn to create, and tying that in with what contributes to our world compared to its modern use in Western society. Let's start off with what art is defined by. What is the inherent quality that is perceived as art? Our efforts to define art have become the very limitations as to what we see as art. The same analogy can be related to love. Our ideas of how it should be affect what we look for and what we validify. Annalise says in her article, Borderline Cases in the Project of Defining Art, virtually all alleged descriptive definitions of art have strong recommendatory consequences. Meaning the way in which we describe or explain something is then how we come to identify with it. Is art created by the artist or by the viewer? An artist can intend a certain message or feeling, but if it is not translated effectively to the viewer, they will not understand its relevance. Art can invoke all forms of emotion and thought, but only if it can be identified will the intended knowledge become present. Therefore, the viewer plays an important role in the conception of art. Is it solely artist and audience, or is it the connection between the two, the information that is transferred? Individually, we assess our opinions, thoughts, and feelings in our own personal narrative and language. Art is essentially an expression of this language through personal symbolism, using color, form, material, and context as the means to develop and present a scene. Once we understand or relate to a piece personally, we become aware of the meaning it portrays. The context within where an object is placed creates its intent. In this manner, the experience that is shared is what creates the depth of the piece, or the personal reaction. When the representation of language synchronizes between a piece and a spectator, a certain understanding or perception is created, different from if there was no object at all. Art cannot touch all people due to all of our different personal experiences. Therefore, any single piece will not be regarded as art by everyone. And there is no reason to try and convince someone otherwise. Art is meant for who can recognize it, even if it is just the artist. Now, we are more willing to accept something as art if it is portrayed as such by society, because the personal interpretation is done for us. It is easier to agree with someone else's opinion than explain your own detailed perspective. I believe this quote ties my next topic into the definition of art quite succinctly. Art, whether you love it or hate it, the purpose is to elicit a response. Artists produce work as a result of internal or external stimuli. The only aim should be to cause a reaction. This leads us to the process. What is the purpose of art? To explore this area, I would use a quote from John Armstrong in his article, What is Art For? What is the nature of our troubles or aspirations, such that art is something that we need? One aspect would be to express and connect. Art symbolizes the life experiences of its creator. It offers an opportunity of revealing ourselves when other mediums do not provide the same outlet. As humans, we desire closeness with one another, sharing experiences and bonding. Art can be a personal sharing. To show a different perspective or portray an idea, to capture the essence of what we experience. Old-fashioned commission paintings are an example of capturing or manufacturing that essence, being asked to be portrayed in a specific way. A portrait is a portrayal or a designed representation. What is the function of art in today's society? Melissa Zinkin says that the primary significance of art in non-Western cultures is not based on consumption, but on the making of art and the participation of both producer and audience. This notion is almost completely reversed in Western societies due to rampant capitalist ideas, which also relates back to how we choose to define art. Art is used to decorate personal and public spaces, provided that someone can afford it. In this way, it is currently used as a symbol of status. Especially in Western societies, art is glorified for its function as a product, more so than the philosophy and energy behind its expression. Because of this, its definition becomes skewed by the role society has created for it. Within this framework, art that people will not pay for is not good art, regardless of its meaning, skill, setting, or intent. In fact, people are convinced of the validity of art based upon its price, reassuring them that it is high quality art and it is worth its value. Just because art is used this way doesn't mean it's limited to this role. We have the ability to choose the relationship we have with art, how deep we are willing to look and relate. Art is made simply to be an act of creation and expression. With all of this in mind, we can approach the fundamental characteristics of art and in its essence see ourselves. We as individuals are the sole definition for our perspective of art. Our life experiences affect our actions and ideas. When these acts can relate with others deeply, art is made. Art is not made as a function of society, but rather a response to it in the lives we live. The way we are willing to look at ourselves is the depth at which we see the world. Done.
Yay!
Thank you all, everybody.
That was
Thank you.
amazing.
Good job.
Nice.